Hello and welcome back to the Product Biz Podcast. I'm super pumped for today's episode because I woke up today feeling a little spicy, and it's always a good day to bring the spice to the podcast and just share what's on my mind and share what is going to help you if you are open to receiving and understanding the love that is underneath the words I'm about to say. And today I want to talk a little bit about productivity and getting more stuff done in your business and how do you be more productive and how do you do more and how do you get more done and how do you make more progress and everything that is actually required of you to grow your business in a sustainable way that leads to results. Now, I want to start this episode by talking about how I used to run my business, because I think so many people, and maybe you, will relate to this. When I first started plant-based beauty, this was back when I was working full-time. You guys, I was working like freaking crazy. I was working full-time at Expedia, and I worked from 9 to 5. And I would go to the gym every single day. I think I would get to the gym at 7:30. I would have a 30-minute walk from my apartment to the gym, which was right near the office that I worked. I lived in downtown Chicago. So I was pretty much gone from my house from 7 a.m. to 5:30, 6 p.m. Now, on top of that, I was growing plant-based beauty. I had just started plant-based beauty. So there were days where literally I would wake up probably around 5:30, pack some orders, walk to the gym, work out, shower, get ready at the gym, go to work during my lunch break, drop off the packages that I dragged with me all the way to the office, work till 5, come home, and then afterwards, I would literally work on my business, either Instagram or website or Etsy or whatever it was that I was working on. And my train of thought at that point in time was just multitask, get as much done as humanly possible. And even when I was working at Expedia, there would be, oh my gosh, so many times when during my lunch break at Expedia, if I wasn't running to the post office to drop off packages, I would literally sit in a cubicle and work on my business. And I would always be context switching, be multitasking, be trying to get as much done as possible. And when the weekends would come about, if I was at a market, I would be there from sunup to sundown by myself, set up, selling, pack back down, break down, go home, do it again the next day. And I would be prepping all week long before that, while also working, while going to the gym, while eating healthy and meal prepping. And it was just this, I don't know what to even call it, but something that was about to freaking combust. Because there was so much pressure, there was so much multitasking, there were so many things being worked on, there were so many things to do, and I had this relentless pressure of, oh my gosh, I need to make money, I need to do all the things. Relentless freaking pressure. And now I'm going to share with you how I run my business currently and tools that have helped me to get here. And tools that if you actually do them are going to completely shift what you get done in your business. Because when I was working at Expedia, running my business, doing all of the things, I was busy as hell. But was I actually getting anything done? Did I actually have anything to really show for it? Or was I just burnt out, exhausted, brain fried, physically, mentally exhausted, emotionally exhausted, grasping to just do anything, to keep working, to keep trying, to keep multitasking, to keep throwing spaghetti at the freaking wall? And how I run my business currently is completely different. And I had to learn this through the evolution of my business with plant-based beauty and apply this with plant-based beauty. And it started there and it's only continued to morph ever since. What I want to mention to you is this topic of multitasking and context switching and how We think we're being productive by multitasking, by having 20 different tabs open, by doing 50 million things. While one tab is loading, we start another email and then we get stuck on what to say in that email. So we go to the next email and constantly multitasking and just doing a billion things at once. One of the biggest lessons that I learned is multitasking is the worst thing that you can do. Absolute worst thing that you can do because of something called context switching. Context switching, what that means is every time you switch from one item to another item, I think the stat, you may need to look it up, is like we lose 20% of our brain power. And not only do we lose our brain power in terms of like switching from task to task, and then we have to refocus, get reacclimated with the new task, remember where we left off, remember the context around it, remember the outcome that we want from it, and then we switch to the next thing. And we lose all of that processing that we just did, and now we have to do it again for the next thing. And then we drop that email and go to the Etsy to work on the Etsy. We have to remember, what did I work on? How was it? What am I working on now? What do I got to pick up? And some of this is subconscious that you're not actually going to ask yourself those questions in your brain, but your brain is doing this processing. And can you tell how if it was a machine that's continuing to switch in first gear, in first gear, in first gear, in first gear, from thing to thing to thing to thing, first gear is what uses up the most amount of gas. You never get into like fifth gear where you're just cruising because you're constantly switching from thing to thing to thing to thing. So if you want to be more productive in your business, stop the multitasking 100%. And I'm going to give you a tool on how to actually do that. But multitasking is for sure reducing your brain power, your ability to focus, your ability to make smart decisions, your ability to execute and take something to completion. And the hard part is we get so addicted to multitasking because it's kind of like Instagram, how you just keep swiping to keep browsing. You get addicted to that because it's like something new. It's like another dopamine hit for your brain, another like thing to look at. And that can be good maybe for like the entertainment part of your brain to keep you not from being bored, but it's not good for any other part of your brain, and sure as hell isn't good for business actual progress. Because think about Instagram and the constant context switching from scrolling and looking and browsing. Do you realize that Instagram and every single social media platform out there was literally created for you to be addicted and glued to your phone? For you to sit there and mindlessly go from photo to photo, video to video, reel to reel, and just browse and veg for an hour or two. Is anything actually being done during that time? Is it productive? Are things being completed? No. So we take that same type of context switching to our business. Is it productive? Is anything getting completed? Is this actually a good use of time? No. We treat our business and the tasks and the projects like it's a freaking Instagram that we're just swiping through when we're switching and switching and switching and switching. And our brain craves that dopamine. Dopamine is like the feel-good hormone. And these social media platforms know that you're getting dopamine from it, from constantly switching and new and exciting. But when we bring that to our business, it's not going to lead to anything that's productive. Because as you sit to write an email, here's what happens. We're so used to the dopamine of Instagram and context switching via Instagram that when we sit to write one email, it feels like hell. It feels like someone is holding me down to read this email and reply to this email, even though it literally takes 3 minutes, because our brains are so freaking wired to social media and notifications and quickness and all of this world that's been created around us now. So if you want to be more productive in your business, number one, stop the multitasking. Because it's not leading to progress. It's not leading to completion. It's not leading to a good use of brain energy. And is just leaving you craving more context switching for that dopamine hit. And we have to actually understand and be able to sit and work on things without a dopamine hit, which is the craziest thing and truly what I see so many people struggle with. Nowadays, when people sit to work on something, to be productive, you have to forego that dopamine hit of instant gratification, either via a scroll or a swipe on Instagram, or the dopamine hit of instant gratification in terms of instant sales. We have to be able to sit and focus at the task at hand. And here is the beautiful thing. And actually, there's two sides to this coin. It's both beautiful and scary. The beautiful thing is, if you're like, yeah, Monica, cool, I literally can't focus. I think I have ADHD. I can't focus. Here's what I want you to know. There's something called neuroplasticity. An amazing book called The Brain That Heals Itself talks about how your brain is literally always growing, always changing based on the experiences, the lessons, the knowledge, the things that you are doing. So if you're like, I can't focus, yeah, I'm not surprised. Your brain and the neuroplasticity has probably been morphed around constant Instagram scrolling, constant TikTok scrolling, 20 tabs open, jumping from thing to thing to thing. When you're with your family, you're probably also working. When you're sitting with your kids somewhere, you're probably jumping on an Instagram live when you should be just embracing the moment, right? If you cannot or struggle with focusing, it's not permanent because of neuroplasticity. You just need to train your brain, and this is where the word rewire your brain comes in. Because of neuroplasticity, you can literally rewire your brain to focus. 100%. It's just that we live in a society, and this is where I said there's two sides of the coin. You have to look at the 30,000 foot view. We live in a society where the powers that be do not want you to be able to focus. Do not want you to work on your own business. Do not want you to follow your passion. The powers that be want you addicted to your phone, addicted to scrolling, addicted to media, addicted to TV, addicted to trash garbage TV, addicted to fighting and picking fights with others, addicted to all of this so that you stay small. So when you think about building a business, it's a fight against like everything that society has taught you. 100%. And I firmly believe that probably why I have been successful in business is because I question freaking everything in society. And when society tells me to do one thing, I almost always do the opposite. So when you think about everything that's put in front of us is meant for us to lose our focus. So we stay small. So we go to a 9 to 5. We keep paying taxes. We eat the crappy food. We get sick. We get the prescription medicine and we freaking die. Like that's what the powers that be want you to do. They want you to stay small, stay in a job, just keep going to work, keep paying the bills because the bills never go away. They do not want you growing a business, showing yourself what you're possible of, facing your fears, impacting other people, showing up authentically as you and inspiring other people to show up authentically as themselves from what you do. No. They don't want that. So, of course it's hard to freaking focus because everything in society has actually told us, number one, that we're not worthy. We have to do more. Multitask. And number two, there's literal programming via social media, etc., to prevent us from being able to focus. So your job as a small business owner is to learn how to focus, to rewire your brain, and to acknowledge this and realize that it's as crappy as it sounds, it's literally there against us to prevent us from reaching our fullest potential. Now, the other thing I want to say, like on this topic of focus, which is so crazy, but when you watch TV nowadays, you're going to hate me when I say this. if you take it back and actually look. When you watch TV nowadays, go and look to see how fast the frames of every single scene adjust. Like one person is talking, and then another person is talking. And on these TV shows, the frames just switch so fast. And it's so crazy when the frame is actually on a person speaking. It's not directly at them. There's always like things moving in the background, or the camera is kind of moving left to right. So when you think about that, it's literally these TV shows and how they're recorded is to prevent us from focusing. It's to keep, which is number one, to keep our attention, right? Because something is always moving, or the scenes are changing really fast, or it's jumping from person to person, or background to background, or whatever it is. So it's to keep our focus, but also it's scrambling our brain's ability to focus without the constant stimulation. And then we need the constant stimulation. We think we do, back to the dopamine hit, which then leads to multitasking, which then leads to nothing getting done, burnout, exhaustion, wondering why your business hasn't grown, okay? Isn't it crazy how something like multitasking, if you take a bird's eye view, it's like way deeper and darker than that. I know, it's crazy. That's why I love being a coach, because I could go on this other tangent. I truly believe being a coach, like, yes, I help people make more money, but what I'm really doing is helping them step into the authentic version of who they are and blasting through all of their fears that society has put on us. Because I know if there are more people who are fearless and who are chasing after their full potential, it's going to change the world drastically. A little bit of a side tangent of what we're actually doing here, folks. Okay, so with that, we talked about multitasking and how it's not favorable and ingrained in us at the same time. So how do we stop this? How do we stop this? Well, here is something I want you to do, okay? And it's kind of like cruel and unusual punishment, but if you do this, it's going to shift so much, and you're going to have an crazy awakening of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how I used to operate that way. This is something that's called a time study. Now, what this means is you buy a little notebook. I want it something that you're literally writing in with your pen and paper. And you take it with you every single place you go for 2 weeks. And you document on a daily basis every time you're working on something or doing something, and every time that changes to something else. So for example, you're going to see how much you freaking multitask and context switch and jump from thing to thing. And you're going to look at these pieces of paper after 2 weeks and be like, oh my gosh, no wonder I'm not getting anything done. No wonder I'm burnt out. No wonder my brain is fried. Because when you first start this exercise, let me just take like when you sit down to work and what it looks like. Because obviously there's a morning routine that happens before that. But when you sit down to work, the very first day, it's going to look like this. Check Instagram, check email, start replying to XYZ email, check Instagram, check orders, check email, start replying to XYZ, check Instagram. And that's going to be like your first freaking 5 minutes. Go on website, adjust product descriptions, check Instagram, check email, reply to DMs, view other people's stories, start to create a post for Instagram, go back to website, product descriptions, go back to Instagram post, check Instagram, reply to DMs. It's going to drive you nuts. The key here is to see to have awareness of how much multitasking is happening, okay? Because it's going to hurt when you see that. It's going to hurt. It's going to be like this massive awakening, like I said. Now, the second thing that will happen, probably a couple days in when you do this time study, is you are going to get so tired of your own shit that you're going to be like, I don't want to check Instagram right now for the 15th time today, because if I do, I have to write it down again. And this is turning into a pain in my ass. So I'm actually going to avoid Instagram this morning altogether. So I just don't want to write it down. And then when you sit down to work on your email, when you're about to switch context, when you're about to change course, you're going to be reminded, oh, I got to write it down if I switch. So let me just finish this email. Let me just go through my inbox. Let me take these one by one and start to complete them. This is where you're starting to rewire your brain. Because instead of the usual habit, you are creating new habits. And that's what affects your neuroplasticity. That's what changes your brain. That's what changes how you operate. Now, a lot of people say that they're not disciplined and they can't focus and they don't have enough discipline. You are disciplined. You're just disciplined to your shitty habits. You're very disciplined to your shitty habits, right? Picking up Instagram 1,800 times per day. You've got some discipline if you've been doing that every day for the past year, 2, 3 years, right? I would say that's discipline. That's commitment. So you have discipline. It's just going to be rewiring your brain to have discipline towards something new. And when I first did this time study and I saw how much I was context switching, how much I was jumping from thing to thing, and then when I would review it at the end of the day, I'd be like, I had time to work my business, but I got nothing done. Nothing. Because I was just jumping from thing to thing to thing. And then I'm like, oh, people want to know how to be productive. That's why multitasking is not the answer. Not only are you losing brain power, but you're literally just not getting anything done because you're jumping from one thing to another, not getting any of them to actual completion. Now, if we look on the flip side, when I first started to do this time study and finally got sick of my own shit and was like, this has to change. When I work, and I've been doing this for a while now, when I work currently, I am laser focused. I work on one thing and I finish it. I start it and I finish it. Then I go on to the next thing. I start it and I finish it. I give myself breaks after I start and finish something, especially if it's been like over 2 hours working on something in particular. So I have breaks in between there to like read a book for 10 minutes or step outside or have a snack. But I am so laser focused on working on one thing at a time that I breeze through my project list, my to-do list, my things I have to get done. And that's why I only work 4 to 5 hours per day and take 3-day weekends and go for a 2-hour lunch break by the pool every single day. Because I'm no longer multitasking and instead I've rewired my brain to focus and be able to work on one project at a time. If this is the one switch that you make in your business, it is going to change so much for you. Now I'm going to take this one step further, and I can do a whole episode about knowing what to work on. Once you've gone through this time study and are starting to actually change and create focus, then there's the question of, are you working on the right things? Because you can be focused, working on something for 2 hours, but is that the right thing that you should be working on? Another episode for another day. But what I wanted to take the direction of this conversation is, oh man, I had a thought, but I forgot it. I hate when that happens, especially when I was in a good flow. Okay, we're talking about multitasking, obviously. How it's not good, obviously. The need to focus. Oh, I knew what I was going to say. We can take this one step further. And I don't want to overwhelm you too much. So if you just took what we talked about now, great. But then as you start to do this time study and you're focusing and you're doing things one at a time, you can start to ask yourself, what is my intention behind the task or project I'm about to work on? Because then you're focusing on one thing, you know your intention, and that just solidifies it. So let me give you an example of both business and personal. When I was giving you the example of how I used to work, I would take any freaking moment I had to work on my business. So for example, if my husband and I were driving from Chicago to Michigan to visit our family, he would drive, and for those 5 hours, I would work. If we were flying anywhere, I would get Wi-Fi and I would work. If we were sitting at the airport, I would work. If we were driving for an hour somewhere, I would work. any freaking moment I would work. And probably because I was multitasking and like shit wasn't getting done. So I needed all this extra time to actually get stuff done. Because when you stop multitasking and you focus, you don't need nearly as much time to get stuff done. And I wish people would realize that. But when I started to ask myself, what is my intention behind what I'm doing? Things shifted. It doesn't have to be work all the freaking time. My intention when I'm on a flight with my husband is to enjoy sitting next to him and have a conversation. My intention when we're driving to Michigan is maybe to like put an audiobook or a podcast on or talk to my husband or listen to music and actually enjoy the time that's away from my laptop. Or if you have kids and it's multitasking, like taking the kids somewhere and multitasking, being on Instagram while half watching the kids, half not. Maybe your intention is, I actually want to be present with my kids. And then when you do this intention work with your business, okay, my intention right now is Instagram. I want to create 5 kick-ass posts that will hold me over for the next week. Cool. Sets the intention and solidifies it. So if you are wondering, how do I be more productive in my business? It starts looking at the mirror of how are you running your business currently? And if it's not conducive to results or conducive to success, that is your clue that it's not working and something has to change. And if you're not feeling productive enough, I guarantee it's one of 2 things, either multitasking and not focusing, or a need to prove something to someone with some sort of result. And you guys have heard me talk about this before, the needing to prove, the neediness. I have to make X amount of sales in order to prove to my mom that this was a good decision, to prove that running a business is what I meant to do, to prove my worth, to prove XYZ to whomever. And that's another topic for another day too, because we got to drop that thinking 100%. But the other part of it is if you're not productive enough, it's because you're multitasking. And if you're multitasking, you're losing brain power. And if you're losing brain power, you're not getting things done. So the key is to rewire your brain, to learn how to focus, to work on things one at a time, to have an intention behind what you work. And the second main part of this conversation, which will be another episode, is making sure with all of this, the focus, the intention, the one at a time, that you are working on the right things. Now I'm going to say one more thing. We're going to go back up to like the society conversation. If you also struggle to focus, I want you to take a good hard look at 3 things. Number 1, sugar. If you struggle to focus, like cut the sugar, 100%. I don't care if it's freaking coconut sugar or cane sugar or regular white sugar or high fructose corn syrup. All of it literally is going to put your body into a massive overdrive and a sugar high. What is a sugar high? Jumping from thing to thing to thing to thing. So if you can't focus, look at what you're eating. Look at the sugar. Look at like quick processing carbs. There's so much that goes into it. There's so much that goes into diet and how to have optimal peak performance, but sugar is a huge thing. And warning, they put sugar in everything because they know that. Goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Okay? The powers that be, I don't know who they are, but these people put sugar in everything because they know what it does to us. Okay? Number 2, caffeine. Too much caffeine can actually lead to the jitters and not focusing. I haven't had caffeine. I haven't had coffee in probably, I don't know, I want to say maybe 10 years, 7 years, 10 years. I don't know how long it's been. Stop drinking coffee because as much as I love the taste, everyone wants to tell me, oh my God, I can't believe you don't drink coffee. I love the taste. Yeah, I freaking love the taste too. You know what else I love the taste of? A McDonald's burger and fries, but I don't freaking eat it because I know it's not good for me. I stopped drinking coffee 7, 10, I don't know how many years ago because although I loved the taste and I loved the morning ritual and routine, it gave me anxiety, it gave me jitters, it made me not sleep well, it made me irritable, it made me not able to focus. And you wonder why there's a Starbucks in every single freaking corner. Now, that one was a trickier one for me because it's not like I would drink coffee and instantly notice those things. It was I would drink coffee and throughout the day, those things would happen. And it wasn't until I completely cut coffee that I was like, oh, that's where all that was coming from. Then I was drinking matcha for a good amount of time, probably like 5 years. I was drinking matcha. Actually, I'll say 7 years I was drinking matcha. And about a year ago, I just stopped caffeine altogether. Because another tangent. Matcha has lead in it. I noticed in my hair mineral test that my lead was increasing. So I was like, okay, gotta cut the matcha. And you know what, guys? I'm fine. Like I said, when society says one thing, I do the other. I don't think we actually need caffeine. I don't think people need caffeine. I think we get addicted to it like we get addicted to Instagram scrolling and context switching and dopamine hits. That when you stop an addiction, it feels like crap, but once you get past that, I don't think our bodies physically need it. Now, if your body physically needs caffeine to wake up, what I would say is it's probably more of your diet than anything that's making you sluggish and slowing you down. Diet and exercise and getting a good sleep schedule, right? All comes back to the foundations: food, exercise, fresh air, sleep. So I said a couple other things to help you focus. Sugar, cut that shit. Caffeine, cut that shit. There was a third thing I was going to say, but I can't remember. It's probably, limiting social media time. Abso-freaking-lutely. Limiting social media, limiting TV. Those are things that I do. Social media, I don't have a personal social media. I just have my business one. I don't really follow friends on that business social media. I have a Facebook page that has 0 friends, a Facebook account that has 0 friends, and I literally use it just to go into the Product Biz Academy members only Facebook group to comment and interact with people. So I have prevented myself from having the ability to scroll on social media in terms of friends, family, etc. Do I still keep up with my friends and family? Yeah, I text them or I call them. I don't know. I never really understood social media in that way. I've used it for business for a long time. And that delineation for me has always served me in a really good way because otherwise, yeah, you do get caught up just seeing what everyone else is doing and comparing and this and that. So understanding what are your triggers for losing focus. And for me, it was Instagram and TV. So now you guys are like, oh, this chick sounds miserable. She doesn't eat sugar. She doesn't drink caffeine. She's barely on social media unless it's for work. She doesn't really watch TV. What does she do? You know what I freaking do? My purpose and my passion, which is to help others see what they are truly capable of doing. And that is so much more rewarding than watching freaking Keeping Up with the Kardashians, okay? And maybe this turns a little bit more meta in terms of what is your passion and purpose for you on this planet? And are you fulfilling that passion and purpose? Are you going after it? Are you going after your dreams? Are you taking courageous steps? Are you taking risk? Are you showing yourself what is possible? Are you playing the biggest game that you can play while you are on this planet for the limited time that we are here? Or are you just playing small and numbing emotions because you know deep down you're playing small by constantly browsing social media? I don't know. That's an internal discussion that you're going to have, okay? But trust me when I say, when you are living your passion and purpose and putting yourself in scary situations to stretch yourself, to make this passion and purpose as big of a deal as it actually is, whether that be with the products you sell and the impact it has on people, the problem you solve, like we talked about in last week's episode, that is so rewarding. And if your goal in this life, which is my personal goal, is personal growth to help myself to be able to help others, then every single day is the best day in the world. Because that's what I wake up and do. And I'm totally fine surpassing the sugar, caffeine, and social media to do it. So that's another tangent. I don't know. Whatever. We're unhinged today. Okay, so that's what I wanted to share with you. How to be more productive. Do a time study. rewire your brain, cut the lousy habits, start changing if you truly want to make the most of this life, and see what doors open for you. Truly, truly, truly see what happens. And that's all I got for you today. And I will see you on the next episode of the Product Biz Podcast.